the Management Advantage. Fire has been used for decades as a very effective management tool. Today, we're going to show you some simple tips to help you use prescribed fire on your property to improve the quality of your wildlife habitat as well as your timberland. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Welcome to the Management Advantage, gaining the advantage through proper land management, with your host, Chuck Sykes, who is dedicated to sound wildlife management practices and principles that will help both sportsmen and landowners get the optimum potential from their land. Sponsored by Motorola, Holland Grills, Arsenal by BASF, EasyGo, the Whitetail Institute of North America, the Lodge of Louisiana, and Bill Jordan's Realtree.
You know, prescribed fire is one of the cheapest and most effective management tools that you can have if it's done properly. Now, each year, one of my professors, Dr. Ralph Merarkey from Auburn University, brings his students out, just like he did me several years ago, take them to a piece of property and teach them proper techniques to prescribe fire. Come go along with us as we teach them some proper burning techniques.
We got low humidity, which is running at around 20%, which is very low. We got a heavy fuel load. We have wax myrtle on the ground, and it's uniform throughout the whole stand.
And it hasn't been burned in about
5 years growth in there. So it's a touchy burn. What we're going to do is, and the fuel's dry, so I went in and checked. We got good ground moisture though, so if we do this right, it shouldn't cause any damage to the soil. What we're going to do is, the wind's pretty consistent out of the east, so we're going to lay down a backfire here. On what side? It's out of the east. What are we going to do? Where are we going to put the fire down? We're going to set it down on the west side here and let the fire back slowly into the wind until we even get a wider boundary here. We have a good fire breaks all the way around. We're going to go with the backfire for a while, see how the fire reacts. Okay, now that we have a real good understanding of how the fire is behaving and the wind's coming consistently out of the east, we got a nice backfire going here. We're going to run strip head fires through here at maybe only 10 and 15 feet intervals because the fuel's just too dense to go any wider than that. What we'll do is we're going to put people on both sides of the fire and just guard against any spot overs on either side. And then the other folks will be taking turns running strips through here. And we're just going to work our way all the way back through this whole stand of wax myrtle and pine and wax myrtle understory here and until we get to the end. So it's going to take us a little while, but in order to do it safely, we're going to have to just do it in little chunks. What we did was use, of course, the strip head fire technique to speed up the burn and to get it hot enough to get rid of a lot of the understory vegetation here, which was primarily wax myrtle, which is one of the main objectives, and of course to reduce the fuel slash and other things that are on the ground. In terms of accomplishing what we wanted to do, I think if you pan out through the stand, you can see, and if you look through this stand, you can see the result. Just a tremendous reduction in the fuel load out here. And if you look at what's left standing, which are wax myrtle, and you look closely at them, for instance, on this stem, you can see how the bark is split. And this is on all these bases. Even though these things look like they're okay, this means that the cambium layer of the plant has been essentially fried, and it's essentially what we call standing dead. We dig down into this, hopefully we should see that pretty much anywhere you do this, there, like right here. When you have a good burn like this, what you don't want is have the fire hot enough to scorch the soil, burn the soil. So when you burn, if you do the burn correctly, when you come in and check the litter underneath, you should still see a little bit of on-burn litter that's just covering the ground. And you can see here some pine needles that didn't burn because the ground moisture was enough to keep those saturated enough so the fire just burned across there. And what this does is it leaves just enough cover on that soil to protect the soil. So when we have a rain come in after this, this will serve as a mat to protect the soil and not allow it to run off. So this was a really good burn. You can see here you got plenty of on-burn litter right there next to the ground, but we consumed probably an inch or two of duff at the same time. So from that standpoint, the burn was a success too. The last thing you want to look for is scorch on the canopy of the trees, and look for scorch. And Chuck and I just drove around looking, and frankly, we had a hard time finding much. Considering the height of the flames, that's probably a good indication of how cool it was today, and with the wind, how quickly the heat was being dissipated up in the crowns. That was good. We were anticipating with the height of the flames that we might have had maybe a 30% scorch.
We had to have a hot fire to do what we wanted to do by killing these wax myrtles, so it was a very good burn. Welcome to this week's cooking segment. Now, we've shown you a couple of great recipes for grilling on one of these Holland grills. Now today we're going to show you how to smoke a turkey breast. The first thing we want to do is we've got 1 gallon of warm water. We've also got, you can put a little bit of liquid smoke in there if you want to, but we're going to pour this water over into the drip pan. Folks, before you pour the water over in there, make sure your drain is closed. Now with that water, we're going to add a little of Brad's Carolina seasoning mix, and you can put liquid smoke, hickory seasoning, you can use chips, but this is what we're going to do today, just to add a little flavor to it. While that water's warming up, we're going to make a rub for our turkey breast. The ingredients we're going to need on today's cooking segment is 1 turkey breast, hickory smoked seasoning to add that smoked flavor, parsley flakes, some of Brad's Carolina seasoning mix, a little olive oil, and some vinegar. Now that we've got our water heating up with our seasoning salt in it, we're going to make our rub. Now the rub that we're going to use, the first thing you need to start with is olive oil. We need 1/4 cup of olive oil. Next, we're going to take 1 cup of our distilled vinegar. Next, we're going to take 2 teaspoons of parsley flakes. Alright, next ingredient, we're going to add a little bit of hickory smoked seasoning salt just to give it that smoke taste. And then the final ingredient, we're going to add just a little bit more of Brad's Carolina seasoning salt. Take our spoon. Alright, now that we've got our rub mixed up, next thing to do is take our turkey breast. Now we have washed it, patted it dry. Just going to drop it over in our rub here. That ought to do it for about another 15 or 20 minutes. I'm telling you, this grill is a ticket. You can grill on it. We've turned it into a smoker now, and you can even steam. And the best thing about it, you don't have to worry about anything catching on fire because it's guaranteed not to flame up.
Remember to send your recipes to us each week on the Management Advantage to CS Wildlife Services at mindspring.com, and your recipe could be featured on a future show.
Are y'all ready to perform a burn on your own property? Did you learn anything from Doc and I and the students? Before you start, I want to send you with Jerry Dwyer of the Alabama Forestry Commission, and I want Jerry to take time to tell you some of the steps and some of the precautions that you need to go through before you undertake a burn on your property. Now, before we do that, I want to talk about one key piece of equipment that we used on our prescribed burn, and that's this Motorola T7200 radio. Now, before this season's over with, y'all are probably going to be tired of me talking about this radio, but it is one of the most important pieces of equipment that I have as a biologist and a land manager. Now, during the burn, one of the first things that we had to do was figure out the wind direction. Now, this radio has the weather channel on it, the NOAA weather radio. We can use this to get our humidities, barometric pressures, wind directions, mix and height, all of the key ingredients that we need to know before we light that fire. Now, once a fire is lit, I gave the students these as we were checking fire breaks for safety. If I had a person at the end of a 20-acre block of land and the fire happened to jump the fire break, without this radio, we'd be in a world of trouble. But with these radios scattered around, it keeps everybody in touch. If we have a spot over, we can be on it like that, get it put out, and save a catastrophe. So y'all go with Jerry, let him explain to you some of the precautions, some of the steps that you need to go through before you start burning on your own property.
There's some things that you need to know before you start trying to do a control burn. First thing you need to know is that you need to establish some lines. In order to burn anything larger than 1/4 of an acre or within 25 feet of continuous fuel, you have to obtain a permit. Another step you need to be aware of is you need to plan this out. You don't need to just go out there and throw a match down on the ground. You need to sit down and figure out what you're wanting this fire to do for you. And on this fire, we're going to use a backfire with a strip head fires in here to increase the intensity a little bit to help push that brush or control that brush a little bit better. We also did a smoke management plan for this property. The prescribed burning is about the burning itself, and a smoke management plan is designed to figure out where you're going to put that smoke, because you want to eliminate putting smoke into bad places such as airport areas, hospitals, nursing homes, schools, and on highways. We figure out where the smoke's going to go for about a 5-mile impact. And if there's anything within that 5 miles that's questionable, then we would probably try and direct that smoke to a different location. Wait for a different wind direction, of course.
Y'all, prescribed burning has many benefits to your property. One very important one is it reduces the fuel load. Now, over the years, pine straw, litter, and debris will build up on the forest floor. If somebody carelessly comes by and tosses a match out, the results could be catastrophic for your property. So first benefit, it reduces your fuel load. Second benefit is timber increase. You're cutting down on the competition that's sucking nutrients and water away from your cash crop of your timber. Thirdly, it just increases the overall aesthetic beauty of the property. I mean, look at that. You couldn't ask for anything to be prettier. It's a sea of green underneath this big stand of pines. And most importantly, it improves the quality of your wildlife habitat. Just look right here at this area that was burned 3 weeks ago. Look at the volume and the quality and the quantity of wildlife foods that are here. We've got grasses, blackberries, dewberries, several kinds of lespedeza, honeysuckle, greenbrier, partridge pea. I mean, the list just goes on and on. When you remove that litter layer and let sunlight come down and hit the forest floor, you've got just a sea of green under here for your wildlife. Now, most wildlife respond positively to a prescribed burn. Quail move in. Hear a couple little roosters whistling in the background now. Deer like all this lush vegetation, and turkeys especially love it. I've seen turkeys move into a burn with it still smoking. I want y'all to go with Brad Harris on a West Georgia turkey hunt with Glenn Garner at Rocky Branch Plantation, and you'll see how prescribed burning can improve your turkey hunting success.
We're hunting on the Rocky Branch Plantation in Georgia. It's my first turkey hunt of the year. I'm pumped. You know, it's the first day all over again, and it's that exciting. This morning, we got on some gobbling birds. There was birds gobbling all around us, and got up here and was going to come up on these birds. Well, they decided to pitch out early. Here they came. We were going to them. They were coming to us towards the big bottom field. Didn't have time to set the decoys. It was just sit down, cover up. Made a few calls on the mouth yelper, just a little soft hen yelping, and boy, they eat it up. If you like gobbling, I'll tell you what, you'd have had to love that hunt, because these two boys are doing it.
Dr. Johnson, one of the things we get over the phone a lot when these customers are calling in and talking to us is a lot of information how to maximize their food plots. They've made the decision to go out there and get involved in deer management, and they call in wanting to know how to get the best out of these plots. We've talked a little bit before about soil testing, but let's take some of the components that come out of a soil test and talk a little bit about lime as far as being probably the most important step that they've got to be careful of.
Okay, when you get your soil test results back, it's going to tell you three things. One of these is what is the acidity status of your soil, or the pH. Now, to correct this, if it's very acid, is to add lime, which is ground agricultural limestone, which must be incorporated into the soil prior to planting.
The soil test will tell you how much of that to add.
It'll tell you how much to add, that's
Okay.
right. And once you add this recommended amount of lime, that should last you 2 or 3 years.
Fantastic. Well, another component of that particular soil test that they've taken is going to be fertilization.
That's right. And the second thing you're going to find out from this soil test is the mineral, nutrient, or fertilizer status of your soil. In addition to that, as to what's there, it will tell you, give you a recommendation on how much fertilizer to add to make up any deficiency you might have. So it'll tell you how much you need and will prevent you from over-fertilizing or wasting fertilizer material.
Doc, as far as the planting process itself, let's just briefly touch on 2 or 3 things that they need to make sure they take care of as far as seed depth and stuff like that.
Okay, first thing is be sure you plant on time. Okay, you can take care of that. Then, once you have got the land prepared, that is disc or whatever you're going to do to it, before you plant, add your fertilizer, incorporate that into the soil. Then the next thing you want to do is to firm this soil, either by letting it be rained on or going over it with some sort of a packing instrument like a cultipacker, or even just dragging something over it to smooth it out and firm it up some.
Trying to make sure that we keep that seed basically within a 1/4 inch of the soil surface.
So it won't be fluffy and dry out excessively, and when you plant the seed, they won't be incorporated too deeply.
Fantastic.
Put out the seed, then firm it again, and this will incorporate your seed.
They'll be
And
ready to go.
that should be a good job on getting a good stand.
Fantastic.
We covered a lot of information today on the Management Advantage, and if you're interested in getting more information on what we talked about today, deer management in general, food plots, and mineral supplements and the benefits they provide, we're offering a free video and also a sample of Imperial Whitetail Clover for you to try. All you'll do is pay $4.95 for shipping and handling. Call 1-800-688-3030.
Didn't I tell you turkeys responded to a burn area? Now, if y'all would like to experience some fantastic West Georgia turkey hunting, we're going to run Glenn's phone number at the bottom of the screen where you can get in touch with him at Rocky Branch Plantation, and maybe you'll have the same success that Brad had. Now, Prescribed Fire is one of the cheapest and most effective management tools that there is out there, if it's done properly. We've shown you how to burn. We've given you the steps that you need to follow before you attempt to burn. But folks, burning's not for everybody. If you do not want to burn, but you think your property will benefit from it, there's plenty of agencies out there that will either assist you in burning or help you get in contact with people that can help you. This is just one more way that we're helping you gain the advantage through proper management. We'll see you right here next week on the Management Advantage.
The Management Advantage is brought to you by Motorola. Stay in touch with fine quality communication equipment from Motorola. Holland Grills. Nothing else stacks up to a Holland Grill. Arsenal by BASF. Cultivating innovation, creating value. E-Z-GO. Travel in style with the new E-Z-GO Precision Drive System. The Whitetail Institute of North America, a proven seed company. The Lodge of Louisiana. And Bill Jordan's Real Tree Camo. The camouflage revolution begins here.